Brother Nero, I knew you'd come.
Welcome to the One Sweet Wrestling Podcast with David and Troy. And Troy, welcome to our 25th episode.
Yay! We're a quarter of the way to 100. That's actually pretty fucking cool, man.
I was pretty excited.
I feel like this show, I feel like it's constantly going up, which they all are. But for some reason, this one, I'm like, man, we're that far. And in every other show, I'm like, how have we not done more episodes than this?
Yeah, I was pretty excited when I was starting prepping for the show today, and I'm like, 25? Holy shit, we're almost legit now.
I feel like that's about the time when I start looking at shows and actually saying to myself, yeah, these guys got their shit together. Like they're at least not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we ever wanted to do a special edition, we could now take the first 25 episodes and have them as a special bonus pack that you have to pay for.
You mean if we wanted to take a vacation and we just wanted to do a clip show episode?
Yeah, that'd be true too. But I mean, lots of cool things going on this week in professional wrestling. Gonna start off a little different. Gonna hit a lot of things outside of the WWE this week.
I'm fine with that, man. Sometimes I get a little bored with this with all the WWE talk, but I don't know. This is the problem. This is the problem with there being no real competition and no genuine other game in town, because you just run out of shit to talk about, man. You run out of entertaining shit to talk about anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, well, the first thing we're going to talk about is it's kind of a cop-out and a cheat, because since we're not talking about WWE, but we are going to talk about a former WWE superstar, and that is Wade Barrett, who is dead, by the way. His character is dead, as he now goes by Stu Bennett, and he's looking into getting into various things, and one of the things he's looking into is possibly as a soccer analysis over in the UK. He's a big fan of soccer, and he's trying to take the skills he's learned on the mic and his years of making a name for himself on national television and really international television, and trying to branch that over into some soccer commentary.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a pretty cool story, man, of a guy. It kind of reminded me of CM Punk, just without the big what's the word I'm looking for?
Without him getting punched in the face repeatedly.
Well, yeah, no, I more meant just I get the attitude, maybe the vitriol. It's just, he's just going out there and saying like, look, I've got this skill set that I've worked really hard to have. And I really enjoy. I still, I'm good on a microphone, and there's certain things that I enjoy. And instead of going back into this industry that has burned the hell out of me, I'm just going to go ahead and do something different. I'm going to pursue something different. Use my skills for something different. I think that's really cool, man. I was super interested in this. I mean, I'm not a soccer or football fan, whichever one you want to call it. I'm not a sports fan at all, really, but at the same time, I just think it's really it's a cool thing to see, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to see where he takes it and how well he can do in that role. I think he'd do a very good job doing it, analysis. But I guess he also stated that pro wrestling is not off the table, but he's going to see what else is out there, but look for him to possibly return to pro wrestling, not the WWE, sometime. But he doesn't really have a timetable with it, which I think he'd do very well in some of the other promotions. I think he'd do great over in Japan, but I really think the place I think he would shine in is TNA.
Oh yeah, well I think there's a lot of former WWE guys that would shine in TNA. The problem is if TNA had the money to make it decent for them to go there, to make it enticing for them to go there, there's a number of guys that could go there, and I don't know about turn the company around, but could definitely help them boost ratings and help them get back on the right track. But the problem is I think they've sunk so far at this point that there's just no real way that they can offer someone like a Stu Bennett enough money to actually want to come to deal with their bullshit after coming out of dealing with WWE's bullshit for so long.
Oh, you're 100% right there. And speaking of TNA, we're going to move on to there. This past Sunday was their WrestleMania event, which is Slammiversary, which I always thought was a weird name, but, I'll take it. But that was their big promotional show, and it was a pay-per-view, and I watched it, and I'll be honest, like it was kind of hard to see it, not because the quality was bad or the production value was bad, but it looked like just another episode of Impact, to where if you compare that, even go back to 1997, like back when the WWE was like struggling to get along, the WrestleMania event looked more grand than a regular show, and this looked just like a regular show.
Yeah, I don't know when the last time that you actually watched any like TNA specials, or I guess we called them pay-per-view out of habit, although this actually was on pay-per-view, but I know a lot of theirs aren't. But this is it, man. Like it's the equipment that they have, and so they all just end up looking like another episode of Impact. What I think is funny is you're not the first person that I have heard refer to Slammiversary as their WrestleMania, and I will say I heard the same thing for Bound for Glory this year and for something else. And so I think at this point, I don't even know what their big event is each year, because it seems like everyone I talk to has a totally different opinion on which one is their big event, which really just tells me they don't really have a big event.
I feel like Slammiversary is the longest one. I mean, I'd have to check on that, but the fact that it has, as in the word anniversary in it, would tell me that it is the longest one, and it's like the anniversary of the inception of TNA.
Oh, sure. I mean, it definitely carries that connotation. There's no doubt.
But let's jump right into the card, because it started off actually with a really good four-way match for the TNA X Division Championship, where surprising enough, Eddie Edwards, who was one of the Wolves, went at it single, and I think this guy has money as a singles competitor written all over him. But he went out and he defeated Trevor Lee and Andrew Evans and DJ-Z, and I'm sure you may not know all those guys, but it was a solid match.
No, you know what? I actually those are four that I do know. I've watched enough TNA to know them. I'm sure we're gonna come across some guys who, you're right, I absolutely am not sure who the hell they are. But I would agree with you that both. I'm always wondering why Eddie Edwards and Stevie Richards are still in TNA. Every time I turn it on and they're still there, I ask myself what they're doing there. But I'm sure they have their reasons. I just think they're intensely talented dudes, and they could probably do a lot better for themselves somewhere else.
They actually had a tryout. They had a tryout down in NXT, and they I guess they weren't happy with the deal they were given.
Oh yeah, I've actually seen the video of that. It was a good match too.
Mm-hmm.
But was this what is the name of their Ultimate X? Was this an Ultimate X match? Like, those I think are pretty cool. That's like the one special match that TNA has created that I actually think is really neat. If you've never seen an Ultimate X match, it's Money in the Bank, but it's interesting because you essentially have four posts around the ring, and it essentially looks like scaffolding, right? And then they go straight up to a certain height, and then they crisscross in the middle. So there's like a big scaffolding X in the middle, and there's a belt hanging from it. And, dudes get up there and hang upside down on it off of wires and do all sorts of crazy shit. Like, I want to say, who the fuck was it who was in one of the? I don't know. Everybody, it's their Money in the Bank. It's their Elimination Chamber, right? You always get some big crazy fucked up out of like nuts spot that's just, you're like, it blows your mind that it didn't kill anybody. If you've never seen one of those matches, I would check it out. But anyway, was it one of those matches? I think is my question.
It was not. I was loving your rant, and I was gonna just pop your balloon by being like, yeah, that would have been great, but it wasn't.
No, I wouldn't call it a rant, but yes, I don't know. It's a good match. You should check out. Like I said, it's the one gimmick they made that I think is really good. It's better than King of the Hill or King of the Mountain or whatever the fuck it is.
And got to see the Hurricane hanging out as a manager.
Oh yeah, he's been doing that for a little while now. Actually,
yeah, he was with Trevor Lee as
yep.
He's obviously his name Gregory Shane Helms, so he was out there, doing his thing.
Yeah, he's been doing that for a while, dude.
Next up, we just had a tag team match between the Tribunal with Al Snow as their manager against Grado and Cherie.
No, if that's even how you say it, that's one person I do not know. Like, I know Grado, and obviously I know Al Snow. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Oh, I'm sorry. See, here we go. See, this is why now I'm looking here at the outline. I'm sorry. This is Mahabali Shera. This is the guy I've told you about Mahabali Shera. Not a bad worker at all, really. nothing overly spectacular, but really not a bad worker. But this is the guy, and I don't know if he still does it, but his gimmick is that he comes out and does this really awkward dance. He's I believe he's Indian, and he comes out and does this really awkward dance. So it's basically like somebody went. People like Great Khali, right? Like there's this weird group of people who like Great Khali. Just go out and be like him. He does this dance where he's like, you got to look at him, like crosses his arms and he tilts his arms back and forth and pops his fingers up. I have no clue what it is. It looks like the end of a Bollywood movie. But so he's, like I said, he's a good worker. But when I think of what I think of more than anything when I think of him was when Lance Storm was still. I'm sorry, Lance Storm. When James Storm was still doing his Bray Wyatt knockoff before he left for NXT. This guy was in his group, and I can't remember what it was called, but essentially they did like this weird moment, like my name is, or your name is Toby moment, where he kept telling them, James Storm kept saying, your name is so and so, and he was like, my name is Mahabali Shira, and they just kept going back and forth. And then he was like the guy who stood up to the evil of James Storm. It was very weird. TNA is weird.
That sounds very weird. Next up, we had a triple threat match for the TNA Knockouts Championship, which is all the things I've always said that I hate about divas. I love the term knockouts. Is that weird?
The term, sure. But I think, like a lot of other things in TNA now, it carries a pretty negative connotation because they don't have a lot of really talented ones, man. They just don't. Most of them are like they're still living in Vince's mid 2000s model search days or diva search days, unfortunately.
That's true. I just always thought the term knockouts was much better than divas because it had a double meaning.
Well, sure. I don't think there's any doubt about that. At least, I mean, because divas was essentially just like calling all of your female wrestlers bitches. Like, hey,
Yeah.
this is the bitch division.
Yeah, and we had Champion Jade versus Gail Kim, who I'm a huge fan of Gail Kim, and Sienna, who I don't know, but she won. So good for you, Sienna.
Sienna, she's another one I don't know. That's actually surprising because I would think that Jade and Gail Kim, it would have been one of the two of them. And Jade isn't bad either. I mean, Gail Kim is she's good. She's good. And we've talked about her on the show before. I think we both like.
Booker T would have a lot to say.
It.
What would Booker T have to say about her?
I don't remember. You do. I think you told me about this before, but now the joke is lost on me.
She's good.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I thought this was some Booker T specific thing. I was like, what did he get? Did he get in trouble? Did he get in trouble calling her the N-word on live TV or something?
No, only Hulk Hogan. But next up was our fifth match. James Storm took out Braxton Sutter, which this was kind of a short one, about 6-minute match. But James Storm was just crying himself because Bobby Roode made his debut at NXT this week.
I mean, how do you not think that when you think of James Storm at this point? How do you not just stop and go, oh man, if you had just accepted lesser money and just stuck around for a little bit, because so many guys are there now, and there's this talk that we talked about last week. There's this rumor of trying to get Eric Young on a more permanent basis, and now Bobby Roode is there. I mean, NXT is kind of becoming like the training staff of NXT. The guys who are there to bring the new talent up is essentially TNA guys. He should have just fucking stayed.
Yeah, I think. Well, who knows? Maybe it was a money thing. Maybe I don't know.
Well,
maybe,
I
maybe...
definitely read that it was a money thing. That TNA because at the end of the day, TNA is still offering their roster by and large more money than TNA is offering their roster.
Oh, the NXT is? Gotcha.
I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? TNA is offering more money than NXT is.
Mm-hmm. Well,
okay.
And I think it was probably one of those things. He was probably willing to take less money if there was a chance he was going to get up to the main roster, and James Storm just does not scream to me as someone who's going to go up to the main roster and make any noise, or even get to the main roster at his age.
No, I think he would have definitely been someone who was there to be a career NXT guy trying to get younger talent ready.
Absolutely. And then we had a singles match for the TNA King of the Mountain Championship, which is the coveted the coveted TNA King of the Mountain Championship, where Eli Drake defeated the wife beater Bram.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Poor Charlotte.
And like I say it before. I've been told you shouldn't make fun of Bram. He's a large man, and yet I always rebuttal with, he works for TNA. He can't afford gas to come get me.
God damn.
Then we had a spectacular match between Ethan Carter III and Mike Bennett. And this one, they actually gave him a little bit of time. They got to go 15 minutes with Ethan Carter going over. It was a pretty good match. I like Mike Bennett. And you're a huge fan of EC3. I think he's super talented as well. But this was a nice little feud.
Yeah, dude, I like Mike Bennett a lot, and this is actually one of the few things in TNA I've kind of been paying attention to. I mean, that was really when you told me that you had taken the time to check out Slammiversary. I think my two big questions for you immediately were how was the Mike Bennett EC3 match, and then how ridiculous did the Hardys match get? And I'm sure we'll get to that, but I just yeah, dude, Mike Bennett's one of those guys. Like he came in and he just felt like he had the potential to make a real difference in TNA. Now I haven't paid close enough attention to tell you whether he did or not, but or whether he has thus far. But just a super talented dude.
I think it's a perfect feud for EC3 to be in if he's not in the title hunt right now. I mean, he's a super talented guy, and Mike Bennett's super talented as well. So they got to really showcase their skills and put on a good match. Now, sad enough, the next match actually got more time, and it almost went 17 minutes, and that was the Jeff Hardy versus Matt Hardy Falls Count Anywhere Full Metal Mayhem match.
Now, do you want to say it? Do you want to say it before I do?
Brother Nero.
You're pretty good at it. You know, I mean, okay, we're gonna shit all over this angle. I mean, everybody's doing it right now. As we get into the story, we're gonna shit all over this angle. But you know, the one thing I've heard people say it, but I've heard very few people say it in the last week and a half. But this totally makes perfect sense to me, and I feel the same way. It may be batshit crazy and absolute garbage and make them both look ridiculous, but when was the last time you talked about the Hardys this much?
Yeah, that didn't require talking about how Jeff Hardy got drunk and showed up at a pay-per-view and tried to work a main event.
Yeah, exactly. So Falls Count Anywhere, Full Metal Mayhem match, which, by the way, if you do not follow TNA, is just TLC. They just can't call it that. So Full Metal Mayhem is tables, ladders, and chairs, which in a TLC match don't Falls Count Anywhere anyway.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if it used to be that way, but TLC lately has been a ladder match, essentially, just with tables and chairs more accessible.
Well, sure. And was it 1 or 2 years ago they added stairs to it? Oh, God. That was like nails on a chalkboard. I love how the logo actually had stairs, just like a little drawing of stairs off to the side. And it's just like, fuck you. You're not even trying. Fuck you, WWE. But,
that was the classic between Eric Rowan and The Big Show that will probably be played in highlights of his Hall of Fame induction.
Oh, I'm sure. So did you actually get a chance to watch any of this match? I've been watching their promos all fucking week, but I haven't had a chance to actually watch this match.
I watched the match. I mean, I can't say it was terrible, but it was just one of those. They're up in age. Matt Hardy. The whole time I'm just looking at Matt Hardy, being like, "You did that. You looked in the mirror and you said, yep, this is how I'm going out there." and people, you walked to the hallway and not one person stopped you and say, "Matt, you're not going out there like that, are you?" They just let him. He looked crazy.
Yeah, the thing a lot, I feel like a lot of people are talking about trying to figure out is whose decision this was, essentially, who's writing this, who put this together. And there's a lot of people who, are like, yeah, this seems like another bad TNA decision, so on and so forth. And I gotta say, man, have you paid attention to the Hardys' careers? Because to me, this is Matt and Jeff went and said, look, this is what we want to do. And my guess would be that crazy Jeff Hardy, with all of his crazy yard art and all the weird bullshit that he does, went and said, I know my brother can have the same weird sort of like trailer park ICP carnival circus like super fucking wrestling god character that I have, and he just hasn't been given the right gimmick yet. I feel like broken Matt Hardy is one of two things, or a combination of both. It's either Jeff desperately trying to bring Matt up to his level, or it's Matt desperately trying to bring himself up to Jeff's level. But either way, this screams Hardy creation to me. I don't think anyone at TNA had this idea.
I think honestly if you look at how it's shot and how it's edited, it's very amateur, like very amateur. I don't think anyone in the production team had anything to do with that. I'm pretty sure they went out with a camera, shot it, and just handed a thumb drive to someone in production and be like, "You're gonna play this tonight," and then someone said okay. But when I look at Matt Hardy's character, what he's become, what I see is Trailer Park Phantom of the Opera.
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. Although I will say that fucking jacket is on point.
Oh, it is.
that like weird smoking jacket he's always wearing is pretty fucking on point. And I know you saw his weird reaction video after losing this match at Slammiversary. It's essentially 5 minutes of him heavy breathing into a camera and beating his head against the window, hard enough that you hear it, but not hard enough to break the window. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah, it's freaking ridiculous because it's like if you want it to sound louder, move the camera closer, Matt. Move the fucking camera closer.
Yeah, man. Whatever. If they're being given this kind of creative freedom, more power to them. Have a blast. But yeah, this whole thing is fucking weird. But to play devil's advocate and to really consider it from all perspectives and not just be a dick, I will say this: it's ballsy. It's ballsy at this point in your career to try and completely reinvent your character, to reinvent your gimmick. That does take balls, and I definitely commend him for that.
That's true. He's just not doing the old Hardy best of farewell tour that most guys at that age start doing.
Yeah.
So there's only a few guys that have been able to do that, and most of them it's when they change promotions, like Kurt Angle when he came over to TNA. He was kind of doing that towards the end of his WWE run too, where he wasn't doing the whole goofy angle. He was just going for the badass angle.
Yep.
But
yep.
Okay match. Just like it is what it is. I'm going to be entertained just to see where this goes because of how terrible it is, and I'd be interested to find out if Billy Corgan had anything to do with this, or they just did it themselves.
Oh, you know what? Fuck if that's not a good point. I totally forgot about the Billy Corgan connection, and I could totally see Billy Corgan going, "No, that's so great. That's so real. Like that's who you are. You've always been broken." Oh man!
And the thing about, and we're gonna get into Billy here in a little bit, but the weird thing I find about that is, okay, if you and me were hanging out and you said, "Do you want to go see the Smashing Pumpkins live?" I'd be like, "Yeah, 100%. That sounds like a great time." Now, in the same day, if you told me, you go, "Do you want to go to this independent wrestling show run by Billy Corgan?" I'd be like, "Absolutely not. I don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like a good time at all."
Awful.
Yeah, but I don't know why that is, but that's just how I feel. And next was for the TNA Tag Team Championship, where we got a chance to see the Decay, which is Abyss and Crazy Steve, who I hate that name.
I hate Crazy Steve. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
Yeah.
This guy and his fucking gimmick, I just hate the whole thing.
Yeah, I absolutely hate it. It's stupid, and he's got two Z's in his crazy name.
It is 1997.
It is. So, you're right.
I'm surprised he didn't spell it with a K or a Q, because everyone knows if you're really hardcore, you don't replace your C's with K's, you replace them with Q's.
This is true. And they defeated the Bromans. So yeah, that to me that was crazy. Well, not Crazy Steve crazy, but I think it's interesting, of all the tag team talent they have in TNA, that's your top tag team feud going on right now.
I think they're trying to. I honestly, I just feel like they're trying to give Abyss something to do, because at this point, if nothing else, Dixie Carter has to respect the fact that Abyss is the one guy who never left. If nothing else, his loyalty should be rewarded, and his loyalty should be rewarded with gold after all these years. Regardless of the fact that I don't think he's talented at all, it is what it is, man. The guy has been very loyal.
Actually, a few years ago, they were really trying to get him in the WWE. They wanted to bring him in, but the reason he didn't do it is because they were trying to bring him into a feud with Taker. I can't. It was. I think it was like WrestleMania 27, possibly, maybe 28 or something like that. But they were trying to bring him in.
Okay, that would have been the perfect place for that would have been the perfect WrestleMania for Abyss. That's all I'm gonna say.
But they were
Because
trying to.
he probably wasn't old enough to be a part of WrestleMania 9, so 27 would have been.
Yeah. So they brought him in, and he was going to take on Taker. But I guess the reason he didn't do it is because he felt that they didn't have anything for him after Taker, and he would have obviously lost.
He probably would have been right, but so I take it then that Abyss is a gimmick that TNA doesn't own then.
I don't. I'd have to check in on that. I would almost guarantee that he would either be WWEized Abyss, but it'd be something very similar.
Well, sure. I mean, I'm sure he'd look exactly the fucking same, and they would just call him something else.
They'd probably call him the Pit.
The Pit.
And in the main event, tap out or knockout match, so playing off the MMA type gimmick, for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, we had Lashley defeating Drew Galloway, which I thought this was a really solid match. They did a pretty good job. Lashley seems to have really figured out pro wrestling to where if you look at his time in WWE, he was too green for the spot they gave him.
Yep.
And I think Drew Galloway is like probably one of the best workers in TNA right now, and he's really coming into his prime.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know how. I actually don't know how else to make that comment any better. You're 100% right on both guys, and I think they're both proving themselves quite well in TNA right now. It's kind of unfortunate, especially for Galloway, that that's the stage that he really has to prove himself on.
So overall, TNA Slammiversary, it was a thing that happened on the 12th of June. That's all. That's what I can say. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was. It didn't feel like. It didn't have that big show feel, if you know what I mean.
Well,
Yes, exactly.
big show feel.
Nah. Well, I guess maybe it had that big show feel, but no, more like it didn't feel like one of the big four.
Yeah,
Or-
no.
Hell,
Well,
it didn't feel like Payback.
yeah, I was gonna say is I hate to say it, but at this point in 2016, is anything that TNA does ever going to feel like one of the big four? And I really think the answer to that is no, unfortunately, because again, like everybody says, everybody who shits on TNA says the same thing that I'm gonna say right now, and I think it's totally valid. Is there is talent there? No one wants to shit on them, but I'm not just gonna sit there and fucking pretend like it's not shit just because, or out of respect for the guys that are working for them.
Right. But I mean, I think they're going to try, and I like to see where they go in the future as far as if they can do some new things. They're trying some new things, and one of the new things they're trying is TNA has a new, well, I can't even really quote it this way. It's a new or possibly new minority owner of the company, because there's been conflicting reports that I've read, one from What Culture and another one from Wrestle Talk TV, that have claimed that Billy Corgan has bought minority ownership in TNA. Now,
Okay, I was wondering why you said we were going to talk about Corgan later. This is news to me.
Yes, he is. I know TNA's been trying to sell off a portion of it to try to keep itself afloat and try to get more money into it. And Dixie Carter she's not going to give up full, I guess, ownership of her company. She will still at least have 51%. I don't know the exact amount that Billy is purchased in, but I've heard one report claims that the deal is done. The other report was that it's very close to being done. And I'm just kind of curious how that's going to go, because he's been with the company for about a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I think we've seen a little bit of change, but I don't know how much we have that has really changed the product.
Well, it's that's interesting because you know, as you're telling this story, it sounds an awful lot like a lot of the other rumors that I've heard over the last year about TNA. But that's the thing; it sounds like the rumors. You know what I mean? So I gotta ask myself: does that validate it, or does that make it even less valid? Because I keep you keep hearing all these stories about how there are sort of suitors out there for TNA. There are people who are sort of circling the water. Um, but Dixie Carter has apparently made it very clear that her only plan going forward is to sell just enough to somebody that she still holds 51% essentially. She still has controlling interest in the company, and maybe that's the twist, and it's a damn good one if that's the fact, that she goes ahead and sells to somebody who is within the company, working with her, working for her, that she now trusts. It makes an odd amount of sense, that's for sure.
It'll be interesting if that'll give him a little more power within the TNA brand if you have it. I actually had a chance to listen to him on Vince Russo's new podcast where they kind of talked about it, and he had some interesting ideas, and he feels that the way the wrestling business is going is that kayfabe is dead, and it can't. The way things have changed now, he goes, is it better to go for? He said there's two philosophies. He said one, you go for either a more realistic style that's all reality based and more like a UFC style, or you go kind of what Lucha Underground's doing and do something, because he said you can't put the genie back in the bottle, as Jim Cornette has said before.
Yes,
He said
yes.
you can't make people forget about kayfabe, but if you can make them look at professional wrestling or a professional wrestling broadcast like they watch Breaking Bad, where they know it's all fake, but they're just into the storylines, which I think that's how Lucha Underground is trying to do it.
That's exactly what Lucha Underground's doing. I've never heard it referred to, or I've heard it explained that way, but wow, that's a really good way to explain Lucha Underground to somebody.
So I think I think there's talk of what to do with professional wrestling and how do you modernize it for 2016 and bring the fans back, because a lot of it, I think, like Vince Russo, when they were talking, he kept mentioning the fact that, because I think this past week WWE's ratings were under 3 million people for Raw, so that's pretty low for him, for Raw. And he was talking about back when in the Attitude Era, like everyone says, they had 10 million a week. But I think what he's not taking into account is the way people watch things now, because there's a lot of people that watch Monday Night Raw that do not watch it live.
Well, and that's actually a common point of debate. I won't say argument. It's a common point of debate for people. I guess sort of the WWE doomsday naysayers is, you know, it's weird. It's an interesting situation. It is really easy to sort of beat that drum of, you know, they're not getting the ratings they used to, but at the same time, yeah, people aren't consuming the product in the same way. I think the network is really indicative of that. Another argument I hear a lot is like the classic good old boy wrestling fan who's not like a smart mark, right? And he's out there and he's certainly not watching on his Xbox or Roku or whatever the fuck. But I gotta tell you, man, I personally think that argument is bunk, solely based on the fact that I don't think the classic good old boy wrestling fan stereotype even really still exists to anywhere near the extent that it used to. I think most people nowadays are smart marks of some degree, and they're just some of us are better at suspending our disbelief than others.
Well, I mean, if you take back and you go back all the way to the territory days, what's the one common thing that the top guy kind of had with the surrounding area? He was
women.
Well, not just that. He could be related. You could relate to him. I mean,
Yeah.
Dusty Rhodes. You know, he was the American Dream, the common man down in the South. People were like, that looks like my uncle. You know, that could
Yep.
be. And Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yes, he was in shape. He was a big guy, but he was a redneck from South Texas that told off his boss, which is what everyone wanted to do. Can
Yeah.
anyone look at Roman Reigns and say, I relate to that guy?
Oh, I totally relate. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, dude. He and I were like lamb and tuna fish.
Lemon tuna fish.
That's the one line in that movie that I still enjoy. It hasn't been ruined for me.
That's perfect. But that's basically. I wanted to talk a lot about TNA, and that's what's going on with them. But I think it's very interesting to bring in Billy Corgan and just give him that much power and have him have ownership in the company,
Hmm.
and hopefully it keeps them afloat and hopefully it does something for them. But if Dixie Carter is ultimately still going to be the owner and sole and majority controller of the brand, is it ever going to help?
Yeah, I was gonna say their problems. I don't think the dark times are over as long as Dixie Carter insists that she is the best person to be steering the ship. My thought is, if she wants to, sure, if she still wants to own it, great. But she needs to step back. She needs to check her ego. She needs to step back and just say, I'm not the person that should be making all the creative decisions. I think what ends up happening with a lot of wrestling promotions is you get these owners, right, and they all see how Vince McMahon has done it, and they think that Vince McMahon's method is the only template to success, right? And so they have to be the controller. They have to be the one with the grand vision that everyone has to follow. But I got news for you. Vince McMahon is a once in a lifetime personality. There is no other Vince McMahon. So you need to do what most other successful business owners do and find someone who knows more than you to pay to do this job.
Exactly. I think people just think oh, I can do that.
Yep.
And they think they understand the business. And I think that's where she's at. I think she understands the business in her own mind.
Sure.
But yeah, it's kind of sad, and I wish someone else would just take it from her and be like, listen, just go over there and collect your check.
Yeah, shut the fuck up and go sit down.
Exactly. And now moving on to our WWE news for the week, and something I read really interesting. We're all excited about the brand split coming up, which should be coming up on July 17th, where we're going to have unique rosters to both Raw and SmackDown, and SmackDown's going to go live. Now, Jerry
And that's
Lawler,
the draft, right? On the 17th?
I believe, well, that might be the first night. I'll have to check my calendar. I think that was the first night SmackDown was going live, but it could be the draft.
Gotcha.
If they're smart.
For some reason, I thought I'd read that somewhere that was the draft. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I personally, if they're smart and they want to have ratings for their first SmackDown, that SmackDown should be the draft. The first live SmackDown should be the draft.
Totally. Since I wasn't around, where I wasn't watching for the original brand split. That's one of the things I'm most excited about for this, is getting to watch the draft. That sounds fun to me. That sounds like an engaging night of television. Not necessarily because it's going to be anything groundbreaking, but because it's just going to be different than the shit I've been watching for how long now?
Yeah, that's very true.
Until the King of Kings hits. Like right in the middle of the draft, like the number one draft pick for Raw is Finn. Behold the King. And then he steps out and goes, I'm the first draft pick.
He drafts himself.
Fuck yeah, he does.
He just pulls himself out of the hat. And number 2 will be Shawn Michaels.
Really?
X-Pac. He just brings the click back.
Oh, by the way, you club guys, stop two sweeting. That's our thing again.
Yeah, exactly. You maybe you can have one sweet. I heard that's a thing on some of the shows.
Yeah. Balor's like, can we one sweet? I heard I had this. I found this new thing in Indiana. It's great.
No, but one of the interviews I saw with Jerry Lawler was he was talking about the differences that are going to go on with the unique rosters. And one of the things he mentioned is that each show, outside of the big 4 pay-per-views, each month, each show will have its own pay-per-view. So you're talking about 2 pay-per-views a month. That sounds like overload.
That's not that. Please tell me that's not confirmed. That's Lawler talking out of his ass.
It has not been officially confirmed yet. That was just what Jerry Lawler said in an interview. So
that is a fucking terrible idea.
Yeah, I hope
entirely too much.
That's what he claimed. That's what was going to happen, but I can't imagine that working, because when they used to do it they'd have like every other month would be, this month's a SmackDown pay-per-view, next month is a Raw pay-per-view or whatever,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I think works way better unless you're really trying to compete against each other. But my problem with that is I feel like instead of getting someone who's going to watch both brands, I think you're going to split your audience if you do that, because that's like 30 hours. 30 hours of WWE programming you have to watch in order to where now you can skip SmackDown.
Oh, I already got to tell you, if SmackDown becomes the place where most of the NXT talent ends up, I'm just going to start watching my wrestling on Tuesday nights. And I think there's a lot of people that are going to join me, and that would join me in that sentiment pretty fucking readily.
I think so too, and I guess it's been tossed around the idea of possibly taking SmackDown to 3 hours, which I'm like, are you serious?
Yeah, for why? For why, WWE?
No idea, but hopefully they'll figure this out, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where this unfolds. But speaking of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, this week was the go-home show out of New Orleans for this Sunday's Money in the Bank in Las Vegas.
Yes, it was.
And I felt it was kind of a weak show.
It was weak enough. I don't really remember much of it, and I did watch it. I watched it from beginning to end, and I don't remember much of it at all.
Yeah, I mean, we started out. We had the whole the tag team champion thing kicked off the show. So we had it just feels so formulaic. It's like now we're gonna have this fatal 4-way at Money in the Bank for the tag title. So we're gonna bring you guys out and put you in an 8-man tag.
Yep.
Like
yeah.
it just feels so formulaic. Like I could have booked this show on Sunday before, like without even really doing any research. I've been like, this is probably what's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, you totally could have booked it for the WWE, that's for sure, because you knew what the fuck they were going to do. You're 100% right. You knew what they were going to do going into it, so... And then they did the same shit on SmackDown. I mean, the exact same shit.
I'm sure they did. It's like they're phoning it in, like they don't even give a fuck. I'm excited to see how bad the 4th of July Raw is, because I've already heard they're writing that off. They're just like, we're just going to write it off. Yeah, you mentioned that. But the club went over here with the Vaudevillains. They went over and they looked really strong. So, I mean, that's good for them going in. I think it feels like they're the team that's going to go over. But when you put 4 teams in there, it could really go any way.
I think if you want to get this new era stuff over, as much as I love the New Day and as much as they clearly belong in that new era mentality and the new era, the group of people that comprise the quote unquote new era, I think you gotta put the club over because then now you've got some credible heel champions for everyone else to rail on. And of those 4 teams, like as much as I love the New Day, as much as I fucking love them, I think at this point it's just getting stale watching them win over and over again. Like, they're great, but it's getting stale. They've even had in their last couple of championship defenses, they've had to pull some heelish shit, even though they're so over. They've had to pull some heelish shit to actually maintain their championships. And what would be more fun than both Enzo and Cass and the New Day going after Gallows and Anderson just crushing all of them repeatedly until somebody finally, like Cinderella stories their way to the championships.
Yeah, I can see a very good SummerSlam match with the club and Enzo and Cass.
Oh yeah, most definitely do.
But then we had a couple of segments. They're really building towards the Shield thing, because the big thing for this segment, they were going to have the Ambrose Asylum was going to be back, and they were going to have both Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns on it. So, but after that, we had the commercial break comes through. We get yet another segment, which is probably the most unover thing currently on WWE television, and that is we're going to make Darren Young great again.
Oh my God, yeah. Who isn't fucking tired of these things at this point?
And I'll be honest, I thought it was fresh and interesting when they first came up with it, but they're so awkward together.
Well, not even that. You know, they care so little about it that they turn around every week and they reuse these segments. So we're going to see the exact same, not the same lines, not the same bits, the same 2 minutes of footage on SmackDown. as if we didn't fucking and they don't even sell it like here's your Raw replay. It's just here's your Make Darren Young Great Again segment, and by the way, you've already seen it.
It's just so awkward. The whole segment is so bad. I don't understand it. But
It's you can definitely tell it's a Vince idea.
Yeah.
Vince is in the back laughing himself stupid because he just thinks it's so fucking funny.
and there's that one part where he's like talking about running and like it might have been last week where they did that one and Bob Backlund's like, no, you don't run.
Oh yeah, I got to do my cardio, life coach. Yep.
Like it didn't make any sense.
And you know how I remember it? Because I fucking saw it twice.
Especially because Bob Backlund was one of his gimmicks, and the thing he was most known for was being so ridiculously fit.
Yep.
It's like it just gives me a headache, Vince. You give me a headache.
Like nails on a fucking chalkboard. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then our special guest this week, because we had Teddy Long last week, we have Corporate Kane is back, vying for the SmackDown job.
And why is he still Corporate Kane? Oh yeah, that's right. Lazy writing. No, because no one really cares what's going on with Kane.
Not at all. They have no idea what to do with him. They're going to bring in different people. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these weeks they pwn up the money to get Eric Bischoff to come back in.
Oh, you fucking know that's happening. To promote his DVD, are you kidding?
Absolutely, which I've seen. It's pretty good.
Oh, I bet that's fucking great. But, you know, at the same time, it's like I have a lot of trouble not being just tired of the constant mining of the Attitude Era. But, you know, we've talked about
Here's
that
the thing,
many
though.
times.
They go very much in depth in his early career, which I find much more interesting. Like I kind of trail off once they get to the
laying on the chopper, and I was the mastermind, and all that shit.
Yeah, like once they get to the NWO, I kind of tune out. But but after that, he like the stuff he gets into is really cool too. So that chunk is. But the stuff before that, it talks about how he got into wrestling. It talked about his time at the AWA, and it's just a really really good documentary and really well done. And you kind of get to know him a little better, and it almost makes you think that maybe he wasn't as much of the problem of the downfall as he gets credit for.
You mean as far as oh yeah, you know what, man? Honestly, I've heard enough, and I've heard enough credible people over the years talking about the downfall of WCW to honestly firmly believe that while he may have been there when that wheel started turning, he wasn't. I don't think he was as big a part of it as some people would like you to believe. I just really don't think he was.
Yeah, he makes it sound it was more of the merger and him not having too many bosses and having to fight for things, and it just got to the point where he just didn't want to do it anymore, and it just
WCW was dead the second that AOL bought Time Warner. That it was dead. It was dead. No one wanted to keep it around.
Which the real scary part about that is if they would have won the Monday Night Wars, then we probably wouldn't have professional wrestling now.
Yeah. Yep. That's 100% true, and I'm sure when Vince in Vince's like coldest, darkest hours, when he's thinking about how much people hate all of his favorite creations, he's like, "You ungrateful sons of bitches! You wouldn't even have pro wrestling if it wasn't." I'm sorry, sports entertainment.
Yeah. So next up, we have Titus O'Neil coming out and getting jumped by Rusev. Just because we're gonna push this angle, and
because Vince wants you to know that when he overreacts because a black man touched him, it's not about race. He'll give him the most underdeveloped and weakest belt in the company. There, point proven.
Yeah, absolutely. I honestly, I don't know. We'll talk about it when we get to that, but I don't know. I think he'll be a challenge to Rusev, but I don't see any thing that's showing me that he's going to go over it. But
I don't see any. There's no upside to it.
Mm-mm. So yet again, we get another Shield package building up the Seth Rollins turn on Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, and then we flow right into the Ambrose Asylum. Now, how about this? I don't like. I love Dean Ambrose, and I think I thought he was really good on the mic when he was with the Shield. but he just feels too hokey anymore. Am
That's
I
all,
wrong?
well, no, because that's what they've done to him. That's why. I mean, that's why so many people have, like the people haven't given up on him yet. But that's why no one really considers him like a credible challenger, and no one really cares because yeah, they have completely and totally just made him hokey to a point where he's fucking ridiculous, dude. You're 100% correct about that.
And he gets to the point where he starts a party pooper chant at Rollins, and it's just weird. And basically, him and Rollins carry the segment, and Roman is over there looking like he's not a bad guy. He's not a good guy.
Well,
just-
that's because they're not dumb enough to let him talk too much anymore.
No.
Which is that's the one good thing they've done with him is they're not so fucking stupid that they're letting him talk anymore.
And I feel like maybe it's the audio they were pulling, but I didn't feel like there was as many boos for him to the boo cheer ratio there last night.
I love that. I love that we're at a point with this fucking guy that we have to talk about the boo cheer ratio. That is actually something, and I'm not saying you're stupid for bringing it up. That's legitimately something you have to fucking say. The boo cheer ratio. That's fantastic.
So the segment ends with Ambrose laying everyone out and letting them know and leaving nuggets that yes, you guys are fighting for the title, but I'm going for the Money in the Bank, and I can cash in on you that night.
Yep.
So,
yeah, man. The Shield reunion is cool, but you know what the problem is with a Shield reunion like this, David? It's the same thing as it was when they had the Fatal 4-Way with Orton, right?
yeah.
They did the triple power bomb spot. It was super cool, but then once it's over and you have time to really let it sink in and think about it, you actually say to yourself, I was excited when they did that. And the reason I was excited when they did that is because WWE hasn't done anything else successful in a very long time. The Shield was the most successful thing that company's done in a very long time.
Well, I was thinking about this, and maybe you can come up with an answer for me, but excluding the women, can you find me one NXT call-up that has no independent background, like from another company where they made it big already, that is doing well on the main roster?
No, and yeah, this is definitely we have something we have touched on the show in the past. They're just not doing it because WWE is struggling to create their own guys. The guys that they have that are going somewhere and getting anywhere, because no one's really fucking over as it is. But the guys who are getting at least somewhere and making some headway on the main roster are guys who people loved coming in because they knew them from other promotions.
And if you look in that ring, you can see that perfectly. You have Rollins, who was Tyler Black and made a name for himself all over the independents. Same thing with Dean Ambrose, who made his name, as Johnny Moxley or Jonathan Moxley or Moxley, I think it was, throughout the independents in Dragon Gate and CCW and all these places, and people respect them. But then you have Roman Reigns, who is a manufactured product of WWE, and I think eventually they're going to run out of these polished indie guys, and then they're going to realize that, oh shit, this performance center is a good idea, except for the fact that we can't just make stars.
Well, this is the other big issue with Vince's overall mentality too. Is you look at this and the big problem is really that like Vince, it's kind of why AJ Styles has just been crushed since he got there, right? He's still over because the people love him, but he's fucking lost. He's fucking lost every feud that he's been in. He's lost them hard, and the reason is because no matter how over a guy is, Vince is not going to put a guy from another company over his creations, right? And it's just all indicative of the bigger problem. No matter what, Vince McMahon is never going to agree that Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose is a better choice for the top of his card than Roman Reigns is.
Yeah, it's just kind of sad, and I'm wondering what's going to happen until they realize that they're doing something wrong. Like,
I think everything that's happening lately, all this new era bullshit, while it's incredibly stupid and watered down because they're just pushing it in such a weird way, I think it's pretty indicative that somebody finally convinced Vince of something. Someone finally convinced him that there's something wrong. It's just that now, instead of realizing that he's the problem and he needs to step off to the side and let someone else guide the ship, he's like, well, no, now that I've acknowledged it, I'm the one who can fix it.
I don't want to see him screw up all these people's careers. Like, I think you can bring in Nakamura tomorrow to the main roster, and if you do it properly, he could be your main event at WrestleMania.
Absolutely.
And I'm
Absolutely.
talking like
No question.
WrestleMania 33. You can get him there that quick because
Yeah.
he's so fucking good. And
No fucking question about it.
and they won't do that though. They just won't. And I just don't. I want to see how they're gonna book this Reigns Rollins match because I just what do you get? Are you gonna crush Rollins? He's coming back. You got all this thing, build him up. This whole new gimmick with his rebuild, reclaim. Bullshit.
Yeah.
And what do you? Are you just gonna have Roman Reigns go over on him?
He's losing, David.
I know he is. I know it,
he's-
but
he's-
it's a
He's
terrible
losing
call.
that match.
It's
He's
a terrible
losing
call.
that match. There's no way Seth Rollins wins that match because Vince McMahon is basically saying, you like this guy, Roman's gonna crush him. That's the plan right now. Is, oh, you like this guy? Oh, Roman's gonna fucking kill him. And get out your find my son-in-law. He keeps the shovels.
Yeah, they are doing everything just everything they can to try to get people to boo Seth Rollins.
Oh God, it's fucking brutal how hard they're trying. Like how much try hard they're putting into getting people to hate Seth Rollins when no one wants to do it.
Yeah, it's terrible. But okay, moving on from that, we had a WWE Women's match with Charlotte taking on Paige, and surprising. Well, I mean, there was a little bit of chicanery going on, a little bit of shenanigans, but Paige picks up the win.
Yeah, two-time Divas champion Paige, the first of the NXT women to come up in a real way, the big one, the one everybody was backing, everyone was pushing, was a big deal, and now she's just a fucking jobber, and it's amazing that she beat Charlotte. Fucking 6 months ago, she was fucking feuding with Charlotte. Now it's like, oh my god, it's like Zack Ryder on fucking WrestleMania. It's so huge. That woman has fallen so far, so fast.
I feel like she's done it to herself in a
Oh,
way.
she's totally done it to herself. Don't get me wrong. She has completely done it to herself.
But yeah, it is what it is. And then we had a match with Sheamus and Zack Ryder. So of course, I don't even have to tell you who won this match. I'm sure you know who won this match.
Well, I bet he screamed a lot about New Era and punched people a lot.
He did, and it's trying to set up his match with Apollo Crews that'll be going on at Money in the Bank. They had a little scuffle after the match. So I wish they wouldn't give up on Zack Ryder. Like, they gave him like a tiny push, and there's like, maybe this will shut people up, and then they just like back to burying him.
Yep, that's what's gonna happen, man. That's the way it's gonna be. That dude is not going to get a proper push. It's just not gonna happen.
The way I look at it is like, if you're seriously just not going to give him an opportunity as a singles competitor, then just put him in the Hype Bros. Just give him an opportunity there. Don't make him come up and lose all the time, because if he loses because he's already a joke. Because I remember, what was it, last summer, he won a match on Raw, and that was the big thing, and they, oh my god, Zack Ryder won a match, and his reaction, he was just so shocked that he won a match, and that was the thing, and it made him look weak. And if you keep doing this, and you're not only going to kill his opportunities, but you're also going to kill Mojo Rawley's opportunities.
His opportunities are dead. He seriously, everything he does, every little bit of something that he gets, every bit of goodwill, that's all him. That's all just his natural charisma. That's all him just being the guy that everybody loved on his YouTube show. Seriously, dude. Which actually, by the way, I need to go back and watch some of that, because I learned something pretty interesting about his show. I was dicking around earlier today. I shouldn't say interesting to me. I was dicking around earlier today online, and somehow got to Wikipediaing Saved by the Bell and its cast members. Did you know that Mr. Belding Dennis Haskins himself used to be on Zack Ryder's show.
Yes,
He
I
was
do.
actually a good. Apparently, he's a good friend of Zack Ryder, which totally explains why a couple months back, I think it was on SmackDown, out of nowhere, they cut to Dennis Haskins in the front row, and JBL was like, "Oh my God, Mr. Belding himself is in the front row," and then they never mentioned it again. It was so fucking weird, but at least I don't have to go to my grave not having that puzzle piece fall in place.
No, there you go. Next matchup we get to see, which to me, oh man, I love this match, and I hope they don't put them together a lot, so we can get singles matches on big pay-per-views down the road. But we get to see Cesaro versus Sami Zayn.
David,
Yes,
stop dreaming.
I know.
They're gonna
I know.
fight 17 times in the. Actually, you know what? They're gonna fight 17 times in the next 20 minutes.
That's probably true.
It's gonna happen right now. Someone's recording it already.
Fantastic match. This was definitely for me the match of the night,
Agreed.
and I thought great finish. Made both guys look strong, but really put over Sami Zayn for the win with his sunset flip pin combination that looked freaking amazing,
Yes, it did.
where he countered the neutralizer. So
Yep. This is one of those things that made me look up from whatever the fuck it was I was doing, which was easily more important than watching Monday Night Raw. And I was like, holy shit, there are guys there with an extreme amount of talent. We just need to start fucking treating them like they have an extreme amount of talent.
yeah. Next up we have the John Cena.
Babadoo!
John Cena comes down and they do their little I don't know, I don't even remember if it was really announced as a contract signing, but he had 2 contracts that looked like someone literally made them 2 minutes before the segment. They were terribly done. Like if you look at a close up of them, you're just like, someone just made those in Word real quick and printed them out. They look awful.
Well, look, David, look. They normally make them 25 minutes in advance, but the printer jammed. The
It
printer
did.
jammed. I mean, they have to transport these printers all around the country to set up. When they set up the fake offices in the back that they're always doing their bits in, they got to set that shit up, man, and shit gets damaged. There's just nothing you can do about it.
But the whole part of this bit was there were 2 contracts, one of which said that the club could be at ringside, and the other one said no club.
No
So,
club.
no club for you.
Fuck your
So,
club.
so it was kind of like, I don't know, I don't like where this is going because it's so weird. It's like they don't let these things breathe. It's you needed AJ Styles. If you were gonna do something like this, then you needed a match with John Cena that the club helped him get over with. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't because here's the thing: if you're doing something like that, and he picked to have a match with John Cena without the club, which is fine, but you do that, and that tells me that you're going to push dissension now again with AJ
Yep.
Styles in the club because he won't have them at ringside. It's like how many weeks now have we gone from the on again off again estranged club relationship? You're not. I don't feel they're a tight group.
No, and it's because they haven't really been presented as such. They've been presented as like when a lazy writer wants a double cross, they're
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's because they don't know what's going on with Finn Balor and they're trying to figure out a way to bring Finn Balor up, and that's the spot he's going to go in, or what they're doing. But it doesn't make any sense to me to have this possible dissension, like breadcrumbs of the club and AJ Styles, when you had a moment where they were fine, then they were not fine, then they did the big double cross. That's it. It's been booked terribly.
Yeah.
It's been awfully booked because this whole time when he's trying to get the title, he's just like, I don't need you guys. I don't want you guys there. And then, then he's like, so they break up, and then they come in and John Cena, and then he uses them to beat up John Cena. It's like,
Yep.
why
Yep.
did you just use them to get the title? I don't understand your booking.
No, I mean, well, yeah. Seriously, you want to talk just like crazy gaping plot holes in the AJ Styles booking. Why everything prior to the Cena feud? Seriously, I mean, other than the fact, and your answer can't be because John was injured, because that's the real life reason. But the kayfabe storyline driven reason, why did he do anything that he did prior to the return of John Cena? Why wouldn't he have just waited for John Cena? Because they're really playing it off like that was the goal all along,
Yeah.
to make his name off of Cena. So, WT fuck.
No, it makes zero sense. It's a terrible idea, terrible booking, and really, if you look at it, AJ Styles has won one pay-per-view match since he got here,
Yep. Yep.
and
You
that
don't
was,
really, you don't have to really look at it. Them's the facts.
yeah, and that was quickly negated with his WrestleMania rematch where he lost.
Yep.
So really, he's been booked like shit. He's one of the best workers on the card, and he should be treated as such, and not treated as almost like you're trying to smack him on the wrist and be like, "Hey, check your ego. I know you think you're good, but you're in the land of the big boys now, bud."
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to actually MSL and Sullivan, yesterday I think, and they actually had someone write in and ask the question. Do you think that the shitty booking for AJ Styles thus far has essentially been to sort of check him, to see whether or not he can be trusted, to see whether or not he'll actually do a job when he's asked. And it's like, at face value, you can assume that, but motherfucker, he's been wrestling for 20 fucking years. Fuck you. He has proven time and time and time again that he has no fucking problem doing a job regardless of who he's working for. So if that is the case, then somebody's seriously fucked at WWE.
Yeah,
Because that
I don't
makes
know.
zero sense.
It's just such an ego thing. I don't know. But moving on from there, we had a tag team match with Alberto Del Rio and Kevin Owens taking on the Lucha Dragons, which apparently are still a thing. So it's nice to hear that.
Yeah.
But I guess they don't have as much faith in Kalisto as we thought that they did. But the stipulation in this one, because Alberto and Kevin Owens have not been able to get along the last couple of weeks because they're both going to be in the Money in the Bank match, is the winner of this match is in the Money in the Bank match. So if the Luchas win, they take the spots of Del Rio and Kevin Owens.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
I kind of love the back and forth between these guys and how you could like this kind of heel feud they have going on, because usually like heels always work together. I kind of love it, and I just love Kevin Owens. I think Kevin Owens is so good at just being a jerk.
Is it funny? Is it funny that like as soon as you said Kevin Owens, I got excited because I was like, yeah, I'm about to spend the next 10 minutes talking about how much I love Kevin Owens, and that fucking pleases me. Yes, 100%. If you want to see all the reason you need to love Kevin Owens, a guy who just lives and breathes his heel persona, as long as he's at least in the ring. So, I believe I was watching some videos on YouTube, and I believe it was on maybe the newest episode of Botchamania. Kevin Owens is walking out to the ring at a live show, right? At least I believe it's a live show. There was a camera on because it's clearly being captured. And he walks up to this camera while he's walking down the ramp, and he shouts, "My goal tonight is to get in that ring and make all these stupid people," it was like stupid people in Wisconsin or something like that, chant USA for two guys from Canada. and then it cuts to about 10 minutes later in the middle of the match. He's alone in the ring, and they're chanting USA, and he turns towards the camera and goes, you see, I did it." It's fantastic. It's just so fucking good.
Yeah, he's just an amazing heel, and he's entertaining, but also can be an ass.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that, he's the perfect heel. He really is, and that dude better get a run with the title.
Yeah, he's another guy. Like I ask myself, is he ever kind of like when you had to ask yourself, is like a Daniel Bryan ever going to get past how Vince feels about small guys? Are Kevin Owens and Bray Wyatt ever going to get by Vince's love for bodybuilders? Are they ever going to be able to bypass that?
I think this weekend's going to be a big tell towards that, because my personal opinion, he is the number one choice, the best choice to win the contract. But the Vince choice...
Well, he would certainly be the most entertaining.
Yeah, I think the Vince choice would, and it'd probably be the least one that anyone wanted. I think Vince's choice would be Del Rio.
I could see that. I could totally see that. That actually makes a lot of sense to me. And I'm not saying that Del Rio isn't couldn't carry that and make it entertaining, but it's just at this point it's like show me something I haven't seen. And unfortunately for Alberto Del Rio, who I think is is super talented, I've seen that show. I don't want to see it again.
Yeah,
And plus they haven't booked him to feel credible. You know what I mean? I know that Alberto Del Rio is skilled and is a badass, and that's why I'm interested in him. But his booking has not told me that story.
no, you're correct. But then you got to go back to last year, and the last person I thought was going to win that contract last year was Sheamus.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ, dude! Did that not just feel like the whole purpose was just the surprise factor?
Yeah,
Like the only reason
really
that had,
did.
and then because in the grand scheme of things, they knew at some point they were going to need a transitional champion. At some point, they were going to need somebody to be that transitional guy. So why not Sheamus?
Exactly. But after that, we had our main event of Chris Jericho versus Dean Ambrose because we haven't seen this enough times. So,
Oh, dude, yeah, good. At least I wasn't the only one who was thinking that fucking immediately.
yeah, and it's just like it is what it is. Dean Ambrose goes over, and then they're leading into this whole everyone does their run in, and they're trying to get this whole Money in the Bank feud going. But you know what I'm wondering? The most thing I'm just wondering, what happened to the seventh man?
He's gone, buddy. The seventh man he doesn't exist. You don't ask. If you ask about the seventh man, Vince is gonna drop you off right next to him. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just whatever. They weren't even gonna bring it up. They're not even gonna bring it up. They're just like,
No.
just take that out.
Nope, they're definitely not going to bring it up. You are not going to hear a goddamn thing about that seventh man. He doesn't fucking exist.
So, yeah, so that was basically Raw's go home show. I don't feel any more hyped for Money in the Bank than I was before. I don't think it really did its job.
They haven't given you any reason to feel hyped about it. So
There's
that's
one thing going into Money in the Bank. There's one thing they keep trying to say, and they keep saying this is a WrestleMania card. And
Oh my god, yeah, they're shoving that down our throats, aren't they?
And I thought about this the other day, and I looked at the card, and you know what the honest truth is about this card? It's a WrestleMania card without all the part timers.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
you wonder. It is a WrestleMania card if you would just let those guys main event WrestleMania.
Exactly. This would be go back in the day before you had all your part timers coming in, and with the current roster, this is what would be a WrestleMania type event.
Yeah.
But if they let it happen, but they won't. So,
Yeah, no, you're definitely not wrong. They won't let any of these guys grow organically enough to be that WrestleMania main event.
Right. So I think right now we're just gonna do some quick fire, go down the card and see what we think of each match.
Oh yeah, so actually let me pull that up. Make sure I've got that in front of me. Actually, no, you know what? Just read them off to me.
All right.
Hit me, rapid fire, baby.
We're gonna have first is gonna be our first pre-show match, and it's gonna be Dolph Ziggler versus Baron Corbin.
Baron Corbin.
Absolutely. Then on the pre-show we will get a second match, which is not for the U.S. title, so Ryback can cry about it. And it's Apollo Crews versus Sheamus.
Cruz.
I'm gonna go with Sheamus on this one.
You think so? You think they're gonna kill Cruz that hard, that fast?
I think give Sheamus this one and make it a three-parter and have Cruz go over the next two.
He could be paying for something though. Here's another thing that I saw that I did not realize happened because I guess I didn't watch the match closely enough. Again, I felt bad for him. Apollo Crews made Botchamania on one of his first live matches, his first Raw matches. It was against Chris Jericho. I can't remember if it was the first one they fought, the one where Jericho was covered in the bandages.
No, that was that. Well,
That was the second one, wasn't it?
the first time they fought.
Yeah, he and Cruz fought. Jericho and Apollo Crews.
Yeah, that was the night after Extreme
So
Rules.
so is the Bandits. Okay, yeah. So basically, again, you can watch. I think it's the most recent episode of Botchmania, and it's during their "Everyone Talks Too Much" segment, and it actually shows. I didn't even realize it happened, but Apollo Crews. They're going at it, and Apollo Crews gets dropped, and Jericho goes for the lion salt, and Crews does his flip up to his feet, while Jericho is flying in for the lion salt. And the only reason it even looks remotely good is that Jericho's legs hit him. He immediately reacts and drops back to the ground. But then they actually cut to the pinfall, and he apologizes to Chris during the pinfall, and the mic picked it up. And I just thought to myself, is this kid paying for something now? I mean, seriously, did Jericho go back and say, all right, this dude ain't ready?
It's very possible, but I think I don't see him going over on Sheamus yet. But I could be wrong. You never know, David.
Well, I guess this is their first official match, right?
Yeah.
They're building up to it. No, okay. Here's another thing. Here's another just gigantic WWE problem. Why is it that when it's like a small time feud that's for nothing that no one cares about, we can absolutely do the whole ships in the night thing where they don't actually fight each other, they just fight other people. But when it comes to big money important matches, we throw these motherfuckers at each other 17 times before the championship match happens. Why is that?
Yeah, and they think that splitting up the roster is going to help that. It's just, I don't know, it's frustrating. Anyway, moving on to the main card, if you have it. The network card, which I don't even, like, here's a question. Is the pre-show available anywhere else other than the network?
That is a good question. I don't know. I do not know. Couldn't tell you. It
'Cause
used to be on YouTube, but I don't know if it is anymore.
I'm just kind of curious, because if not, then what's the point? Why don't they just make it part of the card and make it an extra hour?
Agreed. I always thought it was weird that they were advertising like the WWE Network to me while I was watching the WWE Network. They do that all the time, and I'm not sure what the point is.
Yeah, but
But
anyway,
they like to do it.
we have Charlotte and Dana Brooks taking on Natalya and Becky Lynch. This feud feels like they're wasting time until Sasha Banks can come back.
This is a kick the can feud.
Yes, exactly.
One
That's a
month
good
further
point.
down the road.
So it is what it is.
Charlotte's not putting the belt on the line. We're kicking the can.
Yeah, and so what was the point of having Paige going over this Monday if Paige is not even involved in this feud?
Because they like to make their champions look like shit.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And no, it doesn't make sense. But within the confines of WWE, that's what they like to do.
Just headaches. What are you gonna do?
Yep.
And then we have for the first time, at least from what it's scheduled now, not on the pre-show, Rusev will be defending his United States Championship against Titus O'Neil.
Yeah. Who cares?
I'm gonna give it to Rusev.
Well, obviously. My question is just like, who cares? Who cares? Do we care about Titus O'Neil? I thought Titus O'Neil had a slim chance of being something with Darren Young, but alone, just keep doing the world's greatest dad competitions and fucking toothpaste commercials with Renee Young or whatever the fuck that was. Just because seriously, dude, at this point, I'm firmly convinced that Titus O'Neil is never going to be a good wrestler. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, he's awkward. Not only is he awkward to watch, he's awkward to play in the video game.
Really?
Like, he's just like, I've tried a couple times. I'm just like, I don't like his moveset, and I don't like the way he moves.
He has a moveset?
Well, you know.
Like, he definitely, when I hit buttons, he definitely does moves.
He definitely does things. I couldn't tell you what his finisher was. But
Clash of the Titus. Hello.
Well, it sounds great. It has a great name. After that, we have our Fatal 4-Way Tag Team Championship match with The New Day, The Club, Enzo and Cass, and the Vaudevillains. I'm going to go with The Club on this one. I could get surprised because there's 4 different teams, so anything can happen, but I think it's going to be The Club.
I am actually going to say, as much as I think it should be The Club, I'm going to say The New Day. I don't think Vince is ready to give up that cash cow yet. So I'm going to say the fucking New Day. And I also want to quickly point out how heartbreaking and soul-crushing it is that we are calling them the club unironically now.
Yeah, well,
We're just doing it. We're not even trying to point out how shit it is anymore. It's like at this point we realize that it's just gonna happen, so we're just laying back and taking it.
yeah, you can't fight the system. You can't fight the powers. Then we will get a chance to see AJ Styles versus John Cena, and I'm going to call this one. This is going to be the match of the night.
Well, Jesus Christ, dude. One, it just has to be. It has to be, or I feel like somebody's going to lose their job. Two, how could it not be? And three, I'm really fucking excited to see John in the ring again. And again, I'm not going to go into my reasons why. We talked about it enough on the show, but I'm excited to have John Cena back. I'm excited to see him in a match, and I'm excited to see him in a match with a caliber of a guy like AJ Styles.
Yeah, I'm going to go with AJ going over on this one, but knowing the booking they've been doing, I will not be surprised if John just buries him.
Well, he's not going to go. He's going to go over, but he's certainly not going to go over without some club shenanigans.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I hear you 100%. I think I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's just me applying too much logic to it, but how can they not? How can they not put him over at this point? He flat out called out the whole John Barry's people on TV. You kind of have to at this point. You kind of have to let him go over.
Well, I mean, if you think about what he did with Kevin Owens last year, he let Kevin Owens right out of the gate beat him clean.
Yeah.
So I mean, after a while, I mean, John won that feud,
Yeah.
but the first one he let him go over. So that's why I'm going to say that AJ Styles wins this one.
All right.
Next up, we're going to have our Money in the Bank ladder match with Kevin Owens, Cesaro, Sami Zayn, Chris Jericho, Dean Ambrose, Alberto Del Rio, and the seventh man, who is not listed.
Wouldn't that be great if there was like a run-in twist, like, oh my God, it's the seventh man, we haven't talked about at all. He's here. That'd be fucking hilarious. It's Santino, David. It's Santino.
I hope so.
I'm actually gonna go with Sami Zayn on this. I think they wanna surprise some people, and I think that they're very high on Zayn. So I'm gonna go with Sami Zayn with a caveat: Sami unsuccessfully cashes it.
Very interesting. Well, if I look at what they did on Raw and what they've been doing for the last couple of weeks, they have Alberto Del Rio feuding with Kevin Owens and Cesaro feuding with Sami, which is weird because that's face and heel, and then Dean has kind of been doing his own thing, and so's Jericho. I'm going to go and say it's Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, you know what? I guess maybe it's just because it feels too obvious. Like I would love that, but with all the the Shield reunion shit and all that stuff, it already very much feels like the future, the immediate future of the WWE is going to be built around the Shield again because it's the most popular thing they've had in how long. But maybe I guess I just feel like it's just too fucking obvious. Like, could they really do that?
I'm saying that's where the pieces are lying and where I think it's going to be. If I
Sure.
if I had to pick who I want, if we're going away from what I think and what I want now, two different things, then I want Kevin Owens to win that
Sure.
Money in the Bank contract because I think it'll be hilarious.
Oh, dude! Again, anything you can do to just let Kevin Owens open up and be a real bastard. But that's the other thing about the Money in the Bank contract is it's only interesting if you give it to a heel. It really is. It is only interesting because look at all the guys who have had the briefcase over the years, and look at the faces. Look at the faces who have had the briefcases. The faces who, I mean, really, the only time a guy won it as a face was pretty much Cena, and there's a reason he didn't cash in successfully because it makes him look like a dick. You know, it's like it to me. The Money in the Bank is essentially the heels only championship club.
The best face cash-in of all time was Rob Van Dam.
Oh, fuck, you're right. You're right.
And he decided to get caught using drugs and fucked up his push. God damn it, Rob. You finally got to the top and you're like, Eh, I'm just
I
gonna.
don't need any of this.
He was the ECW and WWE champion and lost them both within a week because he got caught smoking weed. Like he got pulled over. But anyway, and then that leads us to our main event of your champion and mine, Roman Reigns, taking on Seth Rollins.
Do I have to say it? Do I actually have to say it out loud, or is it just unbelievably obvious at this point?
It's pretty obvious that Roman Reigns is going to go over, so he can definitively say that I am the true champion, so I've defeated Seth Rollins.
Well, that's not what he's going to say, though, David. He's going to say, "Now you know I am the guy because I beat the man." And they're really pushing this to a point where they really want us to believe that the title of the man, which is, has been widely accepted for decades to be the coolest motherfucker in the room, the man. Well, there's just something cooler we haven't been thinking of this whole time, and that's the guy. We just didn't think of it. It's the guy's the coolest one. That's the one we want. That's the guy. That's the dude all the chicks want to bang. That's the one everybody wants to go home with. This is the guy. You're stupid for liking the man, David. You should be liking the guy.
Well, to be the man, you got to beat the man, and that Ric Flair's always going to be the man. So you got to move on and have somebody just as equally as powerful, but not him. And that's the guy.
It's the guy.
Oh my God! I hope. You know what this match is going to remind me of, and this happened back in I want to think 2015. When we were at Fastlane, the first Fastlane, because the main event there was Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
And the second the pinfall was over, and I couldn't even have planned this. My network subscription, something screwed up. Like the moment the 3 count hit, and this thing came on. You ever been watching the network and it says something has occurred and.
Yeah, I remember you telling me this. I remember this story.
Yeah, it basically said something wrong has occurred with your network, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, WWE, you hit it right on the head. Something wrong has occurred, and I just feel like it's going to be one of those moments where I'm going to be sitting there, just hoping that I'm gonna hope, I'm gonna say my prayers, I'm gonna take my vitamins, drink my milk, and hope that Seth Rollins goes over, and it's just not going to happen.
It's just not, buddy. I'm sorry.
Maybe
it isn't Christmas yet, and by this Christmas, Seth Rollins will be working like a Christmas tree and Christmas present match on Raw.
That's probably going to happen, yeah. The best case scenario I see for this is some sort of double, like some sort of draw. Which,
yeah.
if they want to push it over and still, build on this, these two are equals. I think that's the problem they're having. They're trying to build it as if Seth Rollins is not his equal, and they shouldn't be.
Oh, there's going to be shenanigans, dude. This is your SummerSlam feud. This is spilling over into that. There's going to be some shenanigans. Period.
In the middle of it, I just hope Nakamura comes out and knocks them both out and takes the title, and then goes off and feuds with Rollins.
I would love to see Nakamura take that title and feud with John Cena. That's what I'd love to see.
That would be a good one too. Which they had a match on a house show, didn't they?
They were supposed to. I don't know if it ever actually went off or not, but I believe it was supposed to be earlier this month, right?
I think it was late May, and it was in Hawaii.
Yeah. Because I remember we had that conversation about it's halfway between America and Japan, so having Cena versus Nakamura would be the absolute shit. It'd be probably the smartest move.
Yeah, but unfortunately, we didn't get to see it. And I'm sure we can look it up and see how it goes. But I can imagine, hopefully, that was a good enough match to where they're going to work that feud in when he comes over. Because from what I've heard, and this is kind of frustrating and disappointing, but it makes sense if they don't have a lot of guys in the wings that can carry the brand. Mm-hmm. That the SummerSlam NXT show, they're planning a Nakamura versus Finn Balor.
That'd be fucking awesome too.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. I just hope one of them is doing double duty, kind of like Sami Zayn did for WrestleMania.
I think that at this time, if the structure is still same post brand split or similar, I think that there's always going to be that went over well enough. I expect to always have one NXT guy pulling double duty every year. That was the very first thing I thought. Is that went over so well? That's going to become a thing now.
I think that'll be cool, and I'll be excited to see that. I hope both of them are working SummerSlam this year. That'll be great, and I hope they're both on Raw after SummerSlam as well. But yeah, I think that's it for Money in the Bank as far as we talk about. The one last thing I kind of wanted to get into before we left, and it is WWE subject, but it kind of filters into the other podcast here on Black Coat Radio, and that is E3 is going on this week, and that's when all the new video games are coming out and all the different consoles and all these different genres you're seeing, and you're getting all excited. And so I wanted to bring up WWE 2K17, and I've been a fan of this series. I got into it about 2014 is when I started playing it. I'm a fan of this series. I have every game, but I was wondering if you have any thoughts on what can they do to improve on the next game.
Man, well, I think I should preface this by saying I haven't even played 2K16 yet. The last one I played was 15.
Not a lot of difference between 15 from what I've gathered, because I had 15 on the PS3, and I have 16 on the PS4, so I jumped there, and I can tell you that the PS3 version, there was not like 14 was great, 15 was a big disappointment because it basically took all the things I loved out of it and then made it the same game.
It definitely seemed like they focused more on graphical enhancements than they did on the actual gameplay, which made me laugh because some people looked bang on, like John Cena looked fantastic, but then like Chris Jericho looked like somebody bashed his nose into a car door until it was as flat as a pancake, and then gave him $10 reconstructive surgery. Like, it looked bad.
See what was really disappointing for me, because I was on PS3 when they switched over to the new graphic system. It didn't change for the PS3. It's the exact same graphics as on or as the 14 year. But they just took away a lot of the options.
And that was the big complaint that I heard, and honestly, I got bored with it pretty quick, and I'm sure that was a big part of the reason why. I felt like there wasn't enough going on in the game, and again, I hadn't played 16 to really find out how much more was there. I don't even know who is in the showcase mode this year. Who was the showcase mode actually about in 16?
It was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
So you ran through his history, so you have several versions of him, but also it had a series of a Hall of Fame pack, which was the Hall of Famers this year, and you got to play a series of matches with them. Like you had, so you got Jake the Snake Roberts and Macho Man Randy Savage in their great feud, and things like that. So there was a couple. You even get to play as the Bushwhackers taking on the Natural Disasters.
Oh boy. Yeah, see, that, I don't know. I can't imagine. I'd be interested to see how that played out, because it's one thing I really liked about 15 was the showcase mode was really cool, and it helped me fill in a lot of the blanks that I didn't know about CM Punk's run, because I wasn't quite back to watching full time yet at that point. And that shit seemed really exciting, but then it also shined a huge light on how depressing the end of that run was, how it just kind of fizzled off into nothing. It was really sad. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to see how they handled Austin, especially since it seems to be their MO in recent years to just use and abuse him.
Yeah, it was. It's cool because you get to play, because you get Stunning Steve Austin, you get Superstar Steve Austin from ECW, and then a couple different versions of Steve Austin, which I don't know how much a different is. I mean, my God, what is it? Different black trunks, but basically, but it's cool. And you have the biggest roster they've ever had, which that was their big gimmick this time, was the biggest roster of all time. Which, I mean, it was, and it had some good stuff, but there wasn't enough guys where I'm like, oh great, we get him. I haven't played a game with him before. It was like there were cool ones. It's like, oh, I get to play a WWE game as Earthquake, which was neat, but it's like, did I really need to play as the Bushwhackers?
Yeah, exactly. I remember reading the character reveals and feeling that way. But you know what? I think I can summarize my desires for 2K17 pretty simply. Just stop worrying so much about the overly technical shit and make them more like the old N64 WCW games, man. Those games were fucking awesome. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. The WCW games on N64 are my favorite wrestling games of all time. And if you could make it, you could make it just more of a simple, straightforward power struggle between me and another dude, as opposed to it being like who can time their counter button better or who's quicker on the tie-up thing. I mean, keep your OMG moments and keep the cool finishers, because they do the finishers really well. It's really interesting how it's played out. It's just I think we've gotten to the point where now we're trying to implement so many systems, and none of the systems individually feel strong, because all of them collectively just kind of feel meh.
No, you're 100% right. I think the one big thing for me, and I look at it as being, I see games like GTA 5 and all these other games with all these character models, and they're all individually doing things, and I think to myself, why is it we still can only have 6 people in the ring at the same time? I want my classic 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. I want
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
I'll even take a 4-on-4.
I want a lumberjack match.
Yeah.
I want a game that brings all the sprites out, puts them all there. They don't have to always be doing things. Just have them every now and again mill around, move their heads like they're watching the action, and when a guy gets thrown in the ring, they give him a kick in and they throw him back in the ring. What is wrong with that? And as weird as it sounds, I get annoyed with gimmick matches in real life, but I think, honestly, build me systems for different gimmick matches. Give me a strap match. Seriously, build that into the game to where we're connected to each other with a strap and we're beating the fuck out of each other with a leather strap. Somehow build that system into the game. Like, there's all these cool gimmick matches you can pull from, but instead it's just like, well, just make sure you can pull the table out from underneath the ring and throw someone through it, and make sure you can grab a chair. I mean, can you even grab the ring bell? In the old
No.
days, you could grab the ring bell. Like, there was so much more shit you could get your hands on.
No,
and I
you
feel
used
like they
to-
have less shit you can grab in the new games.
In the older ones, I know you used to be able to get the ring bell. If it was a title match, you could go over and grab the title. I don't think that's there anymore. At least it wasn't the last time I played it, because I walked over and tried to get it and it wasn't there. But that, I think I want more environments I can interact with. Like, I want to be able to jump off the barricade. I want to be able to go and throw people. I want to be able to go backstage again. I want to be able to fight in the crowd.
Yep. Oh, yeah, dude, yes. Why haven't we been able to fight out in the crowd yet? I loved the old WCW days where you go over to the crowd and just reach in and pull something random out. Like, you never knew what you were going to get, and sometimes you got nothing, or sometimes you got a completely ineffectual item. That was a cool little system. But yeah, fuck, dude. Fighting out into the crowd, yes, 100%. Or fucking build a fucking ambulance match into it. Build a fucking what's the match where you have to answer the 10 count? You know,
False Count Anywhere. I think it's in there. But here's the thing that bothers me. They show all these different match types, but it's like you have False Count Anywhere, you have No Holds Barred, and then you have Extreme Rules match. Can you explain to me the difference?
there might be some minor difference that no one follows anyway because it's WWE, but that's my point. Give me a casket match. Give me the fucking Kane match where there's fire around the ring. Like, give me that shit. Give me those different types of gimmick matches, man.
And they've had those
more interesting.
And they've had those in previous games, and they've just taken them out. And I'd also like to see stuff where you can do counter a finisher into a finisher. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, no, I guess that's not true because I've seen some cool shit happen. Like in 15, there was some cool shit where I got stuck with finishers unexpectedly that really blew me away, and that was definitely something they were doing right. Like, I still to this day, when I think of 2K15, the number one thing I think of is when I went to the top rope on Wade Barrett and I fucking dove off thinking I was going to frog splash that motherfucker. And he jumped up the second I hit that button. So I'm already locked in. I can't stop this move from happening. And fucking he pops up off the mat and just bull hammers me directly in the face. And needless to say, I would have been out for a fucking count of 30, let alone a count of 3. But that wasn't really a finisher into a finisher because it was a character I had built and that wasn't my finisher.
Yeah. But there's stuff like that. I also would like to see them. One of the things I really loved about 14, because if you've ever dealt with the creative community for WWE games is pretty freaking amazing. If they don't have a character, there's somebody out there that has created it and allows you to download it, and it looks perfect. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like I have
Yeah.
Nakamura, I have AJ Styles, I have all those. But one thing I could do in 14 that I haven't been able to do since is I could go to the internet and get their theme song, get their music, and import it into the game, and then so they can actually have their theme.
Yeah, that's something that just needs to happen in more games. Like I loved, and this is somewhat wrestling related. I loved last year when Metal Gear Solid 5 came out. I was bummed you couldn't do it on the consoles, but on the PC version, you could make the helicopter play whatever music you wanted when you drop into into combat. So there are tapes you find in the game, and you can have your helicopter when it drops you into combat play songs from those tapes. So like for me, I have it play Rebel Yell. So when I'm dropping into a combat zone, fucking Rebel Yell is blaring, which is awesome. But then I believe it was Angry Joe during his review. He was showing how you can play any game or any song you want on the PC. So he actually has John Cena's theme song playing from his helicopter. So he's playing Metal Gear, and Venom Snake is dropping into a combat zone to boo, boo, doo, boo, and it's fucking awesome. Like I think games need more shit like that, more customization.
Yeah, and the thing that bothers me is they did it on the last gen console and then they took it out.
Yeah. It's and that's been something, to my understanding, that's plagued. I don't know about other sports, but has plagued the WWE 2K series. Is they always seem to think they need to pull things out as opposed to just adding on.
And I do like the 2K series, but I'm kind of curious what would happen if if a company like EA got their hands on the WWE license.
Yeah, just give it to someone else.
But we shall see. But honestly, I think that's our show.
Yeah.
For this week, I think we've hit every point I wanna make. We're definitely gonna. Are you gonna check out Money in the Bank this weekend, or?
Oh yeah. You know what, man? Even if I had
do your
trouble,
laundry instead.
Well, it's ironic. I don't know if you realize this or not, but I always Sunday is my laundry day, and normally at a pay-per-view, the first 20 minutes of the pay-per-view is right around the time I'm folding my laundry, because I always insist that we turn it on, and it drives my wife nuts. Yeah, I'm still locked in enough that I don't miss pay-per-views. I can definitely miss SmackDown, and I can half-ass pay attention to Raw. But a pay-per-view, I'm there for it. I'm not so jaded. I still always try to hit those, because I feel like, if nothing else, that's when, if they're going to progress a storyline, that's when they're going to do it. So I want to be there to see it happen.
Absolutely, and I will check it out. We'll see if any of our predictions are correct, and if not, we'll eat some crow next week.
Could it be Crow Sting?
It absolutely can be Crow Sting.
He's not doing anything else right now. He can give up a few pieces for us to nibble on.
Perfect. All right, then I guess for David and Troy, I want to thank you guys for listening to Black Coat Radio and the One Sweet Wrestling Podcast, which drops every single Wednesday, and then on Friday you can get Movie Night with Johnny Cinema, and every single Wednesday you will be able to listen to the Zero Lives video game podcast, and once a month now we have our special new podcast, which is the Captain's Corner, which is
you screwed up.
Did I? What?
The Captain's Quarters.
Quarters.
But
I'm sorry.
You know what?
Sorry.
I'm gonna stop you right there. The Captain's Quarters is such a specific show. Although I do appreciate the shout out. But if you're not playing Final Fantasy 14, especially if you're not playing it in my free company, it might not interest you all that much. That being said, it actually is a popular show. So we're doing something right over there. Although I'm pretty sure what that something right is just an abundance of dick jokes. It's just a ridiculous number of dick jokes.
A ridiculous number?
Oh, you got me.
I did. I had to make up for screwing up the name.
We're
but
awful.
For David and Troy, that's it. And for the One Sweet Wrestling Podcast, and I'm going to give you a one sweet, sir.
One sweet to you, brother.
And we will see you guys next week.
I don't need you with a bad leg doing it, Brent. You're too damn selfish, and that's why you're sitting there with a bad leg, and that's why I kicked your leg out of your leg.